Hey everybody, this is Darren here to help you get more out of movies, and today I'm going to give you the top 10 darkest movies you can currently watch on Netflix. Now, if there are a couple of movies you think might be a little darker than the 10 I'm going to give you here, it might be because I've already recommended them on a previous video, but a lot of those have expired, a couple haven't. I'll put a link in the description below so you can watch that video as well. And then before we start the list, definitely check out our Teespring store. You can find shirts like this as well as some brand new designs I just put on there. They're great quality shirts, and it's a good way to help support the show. Now let's get right into the list at number 10 with Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Now this is one of the last movies Philip Seymour Hoffman did before he died, and it's extra dark because he does play a heroin addict in the movie, which, if you don't know, that is supposedly how he died. But this is a grim movie. It's about two brothers. They end up trying to do a heist. Sounds pretty typical, but it's very, very realistic. There's very just sort of grim reasons why they need to pull off this robbery, and it just feels like a real story. It's not a caper type of a movie. Ethan Hawke also stars in it. He does a great job, but it is a downer of a movie. So it's really only worth the one watch, but it's just really well done, and it's really well hidden. I heard it was on Netflix, and I actually started searching for it, and normally movies will just come up as soon as you start typing in. I had to get before the and then start typing in D for devil before this one even came up in the search results. So for whatever reason, Netflix has this one buried, but check it out if you like the way I'm talking about it. Number 9 is one that's a little bit more accessible, it's a little more enjoyable, but it is grim, and that is The Experiment, and it stars Forrest Whitaker and Adrian Brody. And it's actually a adaptation on the Stanford prison experiment, which is a real experiment that took in testees. I didn't mean to say testes. And half of them were designated as guards and half of them were designated as prisoners. And they were basically shut into an environment for a period of time, given set parameters and rules similar to a prison. And it was really just a psychological experiment to see what happened. And, you know, the guards start to just really get drunk on their power, and the prisoners don't necessarily band together the way they should. And it's just sort of a really interesting take, and it's based on a real thing. Now, I put the movie The Experiment with those two actors in here because it's a little cooler, it's got better sets, it's a little more enjoyable to watch. But there is another movie on Netflix right now called The Stanford Prison Experiment, and it's good. Like, if you like the Adrian Brody one, check out this one because it is more of what really happened. It's just a little dry, it's not as engaging, but it is interesting. So those are basically two recommendations for the price of one at number 9. Number 8 is a movie called Teeth. Now, some of you already know what this movie's about. For those of you that don't, it's basically about a girl, a teenage girl, who grows teeth, very sharp teeth, inside of her. What can we say without getting demonetized? We can't say vagina. We can say alright? She grows teeth inside of her and as you might imagine, it takes a very dark turn. It's really a movie about rape, but it's not super serious because of the main crux of the story, but it's not really a comedy. It's got a weird, it just fits into this weird niche, but it's interesting, it's engaging, it's grim, there's a little bit of gore. Like the worst kind of gore if you're a guy. But it's interesting and it's dark. If you haven't seen it, check it out, unless you just are opposed to seeing what I'm vaguely describing. And number 7, we're going with an 80s classic, Heathers. I get this one in the comments all the time on my previous videos. People want me to talk about it. I like this movie. It's not a favorite of mine, but it's a cult classic, and it's much darker than you think it would be. It feels kind of like an old John Hughes movie. It feels kind of like you're watching Pretty in Pink, and then it just goes grim, and it's about these girls getting back at each other, and then it just gets darker and darker. Winona Ryder's in it, Christian Slater, and it feels like a classic 80s movie, and It is, and the only reason this one's really further back on the list is because it's really accessible. It's on TV all the time, but if somehow you've gotten to 2018 and you never saw the movie Heathers, I definitely recommend watching it. There's also a series that's based on this movie that's just recently started, but I can't recommend it. I don't know anything about it. Number 6, I want to go with a Netflix original movie. I'm going to try to incorporate those more often just so I can give you my thoughts on them. But I ranked this one at number 6, and it's Gerald's Game. Now, this one is based on a Stephen King book, and from what I've heard, it's one of the better adaptations of Stephen King, meaning it's just truer to the book, which I think is good. Couldn't tell you if that's the case because I do not read ever, but this one was good. Now, it's not for everybody. It's slow-paced, but it's very well executed. And it's basically about a husband and wife who clearly are having marital problems. They go on this trip, and he's trying to spice up their sex life. He chains her to the bed, only to almost immediately suffer a heart attack, fall off the bed, and now she is stuck in this remote location, handcuffed to the bed, and it does what you would expect. It's her trying to escape, and there's these great Stephen King moments where it's just so well written, where she's almost about to have a solution and then something, prevents her from. It's just so well crafted in the way he writes those things. But then it just takes these weird, overlapping, dark twists and turns. But it's cool. It feels like a made-for-TV movie, and it technically is as a Netflix original, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. If you're looking for something dark and for whatever reason you pass this one up thinking it wouldn't be worth it, it's worth the 90 minutes you're going to spend on it. And number 5 is one I couldn't decide whether I liked or not, but I just keep thinking about it, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it, so I'm glad I put it at number 5, and it's a movie called Cheap Thrills. Now, this one really sold itself improperly to me. It looked like it was going to be sort of a fun romp, a funny thing, and it's not. It's very realistic, it's very grim, there's a little bit of gore. It's a dark movie. It deserves to be on this list, but it's basically about a rich guy who likes to pay desperate people to do whatever he wants, whether it be cut maybe part of their body off, things like that, just in exchange for money. He can just throw money at you, and he essentially finds these 2 guys that are pretty desperate, and they come back to his house. He's got a proposition, and I thought it was going to be funny and fun. It is not. It's just sort of in the middle, this weird sort of realistic middle ground where it's not hyper dark, it's not really funny or satirical, but it's good, and I kept thinking about it. Now, it doesn't have like a big twist that's going to blow your mind or anything, but it's just this weird kind of uncomfortable ride. I liked all the actors that are in it, and it was well executed, and just because I keep thinking about it, I wanted to put it at this spot on the list. Now, for a little bit of a cooler movie, number 4 is a very recent, in fact, the newest movie on the list is called The Bad Batch. Now, this one is a post-apocalyptic movie. It's got a female lead who's missing a leg, and it doesn't feel like anything you've seen before. Keanu Reeves makes a surprise appearance in it, and I actually put this movie as a nominee for Weirdest Movie of 2017. It didn't win because not enough people saw this movie, but if you want weird, you want dark, you want post-apocalyptic, something just different, don't expect to see the typical formula, but this one's really fun. I can't remember the director's name, but it's a female director, and she actually directed another great movie that used to be on Netflix called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Midnight. It's a black and white vampire movie. It's really, really cool. This is a cool follow-up. It's a shame more people haven't seen it, but I think I got it right in there at number 4 on this list. Number 3 just got added this month, and I recommended it on a previous video of everything new to Netflix in March 2018, and that's The Gift. Now, if you didn't take my recommendation then, I'm making an even stronger recommendation here by putting this movie at number 3. This is the directorial debut of actor Joel Edgerton. You've seen him in a ton of stuff. He has got some serious writing and directing chops. He wrote and directed this movie. It stars Jason Bateman. It's basically about a guy who bumps into an old acquaintance, from high school. They're older, they're in their mid-30s, and he starts to maybe come around a little bit too much. He's an odd guy, he's not sure about him, and he shows up at his house, he brings a gift, hence the title of the movie, And it doesn't stop there. It just starts to snowball, and it gets odder and odder and more uncomfortable. And there's things that we as the audience don't know that slowly become more and more revealed to us, and it's done in a very good way. This feels almost like a throwback sort of Hitchcock type movie. I was really excited for this when it came out just because of everything I was hearing about it. Watched it, loved it. It is one of those movies that you're not going to want to watch a bunch of times because the twist in this one really is pretty gut-wrenching, but it's just so well done. I can't wait to see what Joel Edgerton does next as far as the director. Number 2 is a grim-ass movie, and hopefully a lot of you have seen it, but I have to put it on here for the select few that have not, and that is Battle Royale. Now, if you like the Hunger Games when you were a little younger and you want to graduate up to, big boy britches, watch Battle Royale. This is a foreign flick. It is essentially the Hunger Games if they took place in real life. It's bloody, it's gory, it's vicious, it's ruthless. That's all I need to say about this one. If you like the way I'm talking about it, this needs to be the first one you watch on your list. The cool thing about this one is Battle Royale and Battle Royale 2 are both currently available on Netflix. And at number 1, it's not the darkest one on the list, but it is by far the best one on the list, and it qualifies as a dark movie, and that is City of God. Now, this one takes place in Rio, and it is grim. It's about essentially orphans, drug running. Now, Rio is a beautiful, beautiful place. A bunch of cool movies are shot there. They always show the giant Christ statue on the mountain and the beaches. But you always see these ramshackled huts up the mountains in the background. That's where the City of God takes place. It's about these kids that just are free range, some orphans, some not. They get involved in drugs, and we really follow one main character who really tries to kind of rise above it. He gets into photography. So it's not all dark. There's some really nice, beautiful moments in this movie, and there's some really just grim moments, and it's essentially about just sort of the black tar of this environment that is just ultimately unescapable for a lot of these kids. So if you miss this one, it's been on Netflix forever. It's probably on Netflix in a bunch of different countries. It's very, very accessible. It is subtitled, so a lot of people haven't seen it. It's you're getting a strong, strong recommendation from me. If you have seen this one, if you've seen other ones on the list, let me know in the comments below. I will read them, but I will keep making these videos as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for watching this one, and you will see me next time.